Hello and welcome to our today's roundtable. My name is Bühne. I'm the managing director of IREB, and we are the host of this roundtable today. Today, I'm happy having Eddie Grün with me. Eddie is senior requirements engineer at Fraunhofer IESE and also lead of IREB's sustainability special interest group. And Eddie will be the moderator of today's session. So I will, after this introduction, just lay back and switch into the role of the panelist and discuss with our guests. Today we will have as our guest Ian Brooks, who's senior lecturer in sustainable IT at the University of West England. And we have also Ingo Waclawczyk. He is managing UX professional at Capgemini and also working on sustainability for several years, I guess. But you will introduce yourself in a minute. Before we start, let me just introduce some organizational topics before I switch into my role as a panelist. This session will be recorded as all of our roundtables. After this session, you can directly see this session recorded on LinkedIn or on YouTube in our YouTube channel. And you are happily invited to ask your questions, because for sure we will have our discussions within the panelist round, but we will be happy to answer your questions. Please, yes, just use this chat in LinkedIn or in YouTube, wherever you are, and ask your questions. And Eddie or I will just see just to moderate his questions in that we will also answer your questions. I think that's all from my side. I would like to hand over to Eddie now. You are now the one who is leading the session. Handing over to Eddie.
Okay, thank you very much, Stan. Yes, I'm happy to be here. My name is Eddie Groen. I'm just here to moderate the session. We have three wonderful experts here together with us, so I'll try to not be the one to do the talking. Today is about rethinking sustainability, and this is about changing your mindset. And what we want to do is not lay the focus on what is so wrong and why do we have to start thinking differently. Of course, we will have to discuss that a little bit, but also about, okay, how can we make things better? How can we make technology more socially fair, less carbon emission intense, but also how can we as persons, as individuals, feel more empowered to change our mindset and to also put that to practice. That's what the panelists will be talking about. And that is why I would like to, each of them, Stan already gave a few words to them, but I would like to also let them introduce themselves. Maybe Ian, you want to start?
Certainly, thank you, Eddie. Ian Brooks, Senior Lecturer in Sustainable IT at the University of the West of England in Bristol. I spend about 60% of my time teaching and researching around the sustainability of IT and its impacts, and 40% of my time teaching on our Master's Environmental Consultancy course. I'm just coming to the end of my PhD research, submitted my thesis last month on using the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals as requirements in systems engineering. Most of my career has been in management consultancy with PricewaterhouseCoopers, 10 years in IBM. Thanks, Eddie.
Thank you so much, Ian. Stan, would you like to go next? I think we actually have a new event here. This is the first time that you're actually a panelist in these roundtable discussions. I'm also glad that we're working together with me, leading just one of the special interest groups that we have at IREB. Please introduce yourself and also explain why are you in this role today?
Yeah. As already mentioned in the beginning, my name is Stan Bühne. I'm managing director of IREB, and so I have some personal, let's say, link to sustainability, because I think it's super important, especially when we're talking about building digital products today. There are so many applications that were built. I've seen in my career when being a kind of consultant, IT consultant in different companies, where either technical debt is created, things are created that are never used, things are created where you collect data or create functionality that is not really used. And this is, in my perception, not the way we should handle software today. That was also the, let's say, trigger for me when thinking on sustainability and initiating this group on sustainability at IREB. On the other hand side, I'm also a member, or IREB is a member of Bitkom, and at Bitkom we have created also a kind of resource efficient handouts on this topic. Unfortunately, only in German as of today. But if there is some interest, just ask me. I'm also on LinkedIn after the session. That's from my side.
Thank you so much. And Ingo, you're the third and last.
Yes, thank you. Nice. Thank you for having me here. Ingo Waclawczyk. I'm a UX professional and digital designer, and at Capgemini. And yeah, of course, I helped to build software, and sustainable software and sustainability through software. Yeah, that's the topic. And I'm a member of the Sustainable UX Network and also this special interest group here at IREB. And I try to push the topic of sustainability into the profession and the practice of UX profession. And just since a few years, I found that this topic was overseen for many years, and also my career. And it's really, nobody has asked, or I have never been asked as a requirement, not to build. It has to be function, the software, not about sustainability. There's accessibility issues and security issues and functional issues, but not about sustainability. And as we say in this Sustainable UX Network, someone has to pay the price for the experience we built, and that touches me. And I want to do this. I want to pay something back, so to speak.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. As you see, we have three panelists who are very driven, who from their intrinsic motivation want to bring about change. And I'm absolutely positive that we all can learn a lot from them in the coming hour. Just for a little background, we will be discussing some main topics. I think it's important to first set the stage a little bit. So please ask your questions. We'll not be ignoring them. There is going to be a point where I'm saying now's the time to see what your questions are, but it could be that, of course, some of the questions will already be answered by the topics that we're going through. Ingo, I would like to stay with you. Let's start with the first question. So in this roundtable, we are talking about a sustainable mindset. And my question is, what is sustainability for you, and what has a mindset got to do with that?
Yeah, I think the second question comes for me first, actually. Yeah, that's a change in mindset. And I can just only describe my personal experience or my personal journey. And that started actually during Corona, yeah, when suddenly it was clear we have to change something, yeah, and because the world we are living in and how we behave has led to the status we are in. That was at least my feeling. And I looked around what recipes are there to change. Yeah, and I went over a very interesting model from the Zukunftsinstitut, the Institute of Future, and they shared the adaptive cycle, which is a model coming from resilience research, and it's a more systematic view on crisis, yeah, or on life or on development, and also crises are integrated part of that, and they are coming, and you have to deal with it, yeah. And then there's a chance to what will you do? Will you stay with the old thing? Will you keep it, or will you grab the opportunity and develop something new? And that was really groundbreaking for me, and I tried to develop another mindset for my personal life and my personal profession. Yeah, and it's like okay, looking what can I do without doing harm, for example. Yeah, in my work, and that was a complete new perspective to my profession. Yeah, and so I started to look around, and it was clear, as you said very nicely, you have to have an intrinsic motivation because it's a process. It's not like you can't just turn around to switch. It's a process, it takes time. And I looked around for other people that are on the same journey. And so I encountered Thomas Jonas from the Sustainable UX Network, and we collaborated. And also, it's all about collaboration. You can't do it alone. And so that's the mind shift part, and sustainability for me is like it's a holistic thing. Yeah, it's nothing. And funny enough, looking back, when I started my career, my first project was about a sustainable product. Yeah, developing the advertising for a sustainable product. But then this whole topic disappeared, and suddenly, 5 years ago, it came back. And so so I meant closing a circle, so to speak. But I started my career working on this, yeah, and then it disappears, as I said, and I'm happy that came back, and I wanted to do something on that, and share it and the experience, and invite other people to contribute also.
Mm-hmm. You were talking about doing harm. What are we doing harm to? What is under threat?
I mean, the first obvious thing is we're using energy, for digital products, and and if you look at figures, there are different statics, but if you look at the figures, it's a huge amount of electricity, and then the greenhouse gas that is emitted through digital technology, and nobody is looking at it because it's intransparent. Nobody cares, and that's a problem, and we have to. I mean. I don't want to give the solution, but it would be great that every software which is running live displays the amount of energy that it uses, and if it's red or it's green, is it good, is it bad, but we didn't take care of that, because it was not in the focus of developing. But I think it's so the energy consumption is one point, but there are other points like people are losing their jobs through technologies or whatever, or the social and ecological aspects, many of them.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we also need to take that into account more holistically. I hear your word.
Yes, absolutely. It's not only a technical term. It's like we all connected, and it's, if the environment is hurt, I'm hurt, and so I have to do everything that the environment is good so that I can be good. It's kind of Buddhistic or altruistic view, but I think it's perhaps a bit strange, but I tried it out and I find it very attractive, and for me it works perfectly.
Okay, thank you so much. Stan, would you like to explain what sustainable mindset means for you?
Yeah. So maybe let's start with what's sustainability for me. I mean, it's not only for me. I mean, it's also, if you look some definitions on sustainability. For me, it's about that we will, in the end, leave the world in a way that future generations have the same opportunities. They are able to live in, let's say, in a kind of socially secure environment. They are can be healthy still, and then we could ask ourselves, what does this have to do when, let's say, thinking about pieces of software? And for me, I think in the first step, several years ago, you did not really recognize, because quite often you see software is clean, software is mostly accessible, software is there's nothing, let's say, worse with software. But as Ingo already mentioned, it's not only about software, because each piece of software or digital solution needs a kind of hardware, so that we need to run, we need to operate the systems. And here it comes to this point where we need to think of what kind of energy consumption is needed. Do we always need kind of, let's say, new devices, new hardware if we create new features? Looking to artificial intelligence, nothing wrong with artificial intelligence, but if you using this for, let's say, nonsense tasks and nonsense things, then we should also ask ourselves, is this really necessary? Because each of these requests will also generate a lot of energy consumption. You need kind of IT infrastructure. You need a lot of hardware. You need to do some mining. You need to have some cooling for water and all this stuff. And here in this area, I think we need to be more responsible, and we need to have, let's say, a kind of every action that we take has some impact. It's the same in software development, and this is something we should create awareness when talking about digital products. And I think there is a lot to do today.
Absolutely. And I think with the word awareness, you also summed it up quite well, which you said earlier about you keep on thinking, you think forward, you think about the implications. So I think you captured quite well that a mindset is also constantly asking yourself what is important and what is sustainable or what is not.
True, absolutely.
Ian, what is your perspective on a mindset and on the role of sustainability?
Well, I think first and foremost, it is about taking responsibility for the systems we are involved in developing, for what they do operationally, what their functions are. Most of my teaching around sustainability, I use the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So 17 goals and 2 strap lines there: the world that we want and leave no one behind. These goals are interconnected, interdependent, and they're sometimes in conflict with each other. So sustainability is also about making value judgments and being aware of the complex impacts that we have.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what I hear from all three of you is basically we have to make choices, we have to be aware, and we have to also take responsibility, take ownership for this fact. And I think a lot of the listeners here are familiar with what we do as IREB, in that we support requirements engineers, digital designers, and of course also other practitioners in software and systems engineering in their work to designing digital systems. So basically, the next step would be to talk about, okay, what does it mean to have this sustainable mindset within those activities? If we are talking about our work, about our careers, and in addition to what we personally feel is important, what is our job like if we have a sustainable mindset there? Maybe Stan, you would like to go first.
Yeah, thanks. So as mentioned, I think when we are developing or designing digital systems in the first step, especially when we talk about requirements engineering, digital design, software architecture, whatever, so it means in the very first steps, in my perception, we have a huge impact on how we could, let's say, create digital solutions, because we could think on these aspects of what kind of data is needed, how is the process that is done, and every of those aspects should be considered. So and for me, it's quite clear when we talk about sustainability for digital solutions. On the one hand side, we have different dimensions. For sure, we have this kind of environment we see, for instance, carbon footprint, mining, water, clean water, whatever. Here, I think we could also sometimes measure these aspects, because especially when we're talking about energy consumptions or water that's needed for cooling of any data centers and so on. So this could be quite easily, even if not done. This could be measured in a certain way. And here we could also see what is the result of this, let's say, solution that we are building. On the other hand side, we have, let's say, additional dimensions like social or economy that also need to be considered, like accessibility of solutions, or as mentioned, the hardware aspect. The hardware aspect is, on the one hand side, for me, an aspect of whatever, mining, creating new solutions, creating waste with existing solutions or existing devices that we are having. And on the other hand side, it's also a kind of accessibility, especially if we say each piece of hardware requires an amount of cost. So you need to buy something. And here we also create a kind of barrier, maybe also for certain countries or for certain peoples, that is maybe not really necessary. Maybe it is, but here is, for me, we need to think about it in this area. That's why, for me, when we talk about creating awareness, on the one hand side, we have this issue that there is not that much awareness today in software engineering, in my point of view. Interestingly, if you are at conferences and if you're giving a talk on this topic, people get a bit, let's say, awake, and then they come to you and talk to you, and just asking, what could I do to, let's say, take this into my project? And this brings me to another point, that we have, let's say, a kind of minimal knowledge and minimal, let's say, skills. So we are not super skilled in introducing sustainability today in software engineering projects, because we need to think, let's say, a bit different. So it's not, let's say, completely rocket science, but we need to create awareness, and we need to think a bit different. And this is, for me, some anchor where we should, what we could address also with IREB, let's say, creating awareness, creating skill sets, giving people a kind of whatever frameworks, checklists that they could use for their projects. And just, let's say, to be aware and to have something that you could use. Because there was a funny situation, I think it was already 2 or 3 years ago. I've been at an event in Bern, in Switzerland, and everyone was also talking about digital solutions and sustainability on these solutions. And they were claiming that neither the government nor the companies are asking for it, because most often, because you need to investigate something, this will cost money, or this will at least increase the effort you are spending on the let's say the requirements engineering phase. But on the other hand side, I just ask, what if whatever government or the organizations just say from one day to the other, we need to cover sustainability, and we are losing the skills, or we don't have the skills in my perception. So nobody is really knowing what to do. And here, for me, is one of the main points that we can and should address.
Okay, so if I understand you correctly, we need to raise awareness so that we are also aware that we have a responsibility and are in a position to make a change. And second, we need to be equipped. We need some kind of guidance to be able to say, how can I measure what the impact is, but also what can I do? What is the process that I have? Mm-hmm.
True.
All right, so I know that Ian has worked as a consultant, and he's now teaching students to become equipped, but has also researched with different companies in aviation, in medicine, what the role of sustainability is. Can you share a little bit about how a sustainable mindset can work in industry?
Well, I think it revolves often, as it does in industry, around a business case. That's what we're often looking at. And there are many situations where sustainability requirements may not have an apparent business case at first sight. So something that we need to be creative around doing is understanding the value of sustainability. Yes, it gets monetized in terms of if there's a price on carbon, you can maybe show that there is a clear financial business case for reducing the energy, reducing the carbon emissions. There may be other benefits like brand value. So making sure that you're not doing sustainability damage might help you attract more customers. So being creative around the ways in which we can express the business case for sustainability requirements, I think, is important. Also, when we're doing requirements engineering, elicitation, we need to anticipate the impacts. And that's an area that we're actually not very good at. We're quite poor at identifying the future impacts of products we develop now. So if you want to be a good sustainability requirements engineer, you should learn more about impacts assessment and hence how you identify the right people to talk to.
Would you like to comment on that a little bit more? Like, how can we, because it sounds more like almost as if we have to be strategic about it.
Well, what could be more strategic than sustainability, the value, the planet that we are leaving to future generations? So yes, but we also, if you're working in industry, you need to connect that with what the business can afford. There's a sweet spot where there is a real business case for sustainability delivery. And that's often around efficiency, whether it be energy efficiency, manufacturing efficiency. And then there is a space where we need sustainability improvement, but it's harder to find a conventional business case. Mm-hmm. And that's where our personal professional responsibility as requirements engineers should push us to learn more about this and how we can use various impact assessment tools, like, for example, the Sustainability Awareness Framework from the Karlskrona Group. Right. I'd also like to say that we typically teach that sustainability requirements are quality or non-functional, but actually we should also look at our functional requirements and their sustainability impact. What does our system, what's it planned to do? How does it affect people? Are there populations who don't get access to it?
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. I think I heard Stan actually agreeing with that. Was that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe just one point. I also have experienced that many companies are asking for sure for a business case, and what I mentioned with the Bitkom Bitkom white papers that we have created, that was about resource efficiency. And on resource efficiency, for sure, you could have a business case, because if you're saving some kind of, let's say, whatever data center racks, or if you save some operating power and so on, that this could be calculated, and then maybe business gets a goal. You also mentioned this aspect of brand, let's say, kind of reputation, because if you are super accessible for each and everyone, then for sure this is also increasing your brand awareness and also your brand value in this case. There are for sure other aspects that are not that easily to be measured in a business case, but they also have to be considered, and that's what I liked. That is, if you say we have to consider, on the one hand side, this kind of quality requirements like whatever performance, reliability, also this kind of accessibility and these other topics. But also we need to think of functional requirements, and also on, when we talk about, let's say, functionality, but also on data that's collected, data in which quality that is collected, how long this is stored, and all these aspects.
Okay, and Ingo, you talked about how your life took a path back to sustainability. As a consultant, surely you've also seen that in our digital design processes, our activities to design digital solutions, what the role of sustainability and a sustainable mindset are there.
Yeah, I think from my point of view, I mean, it has been all there, yeah, all the time. I mean, one of the 10 principles of Dieter Rams's design, good design is sustainable, yeah. But so it's 50 years old, yeah, the theory, and also in the digital design, IREB digital design curriculum, there's also digital design is sustainable, which refers to that principles. But there was no practice developed on that, yeah, for whatever reason. And Ian, you just talked about business case, and I think nobody really wants to be evil, yeah. If you say like a company, yeah, organization that's not putting requirements on sustainability in front of their line, they are not tend to be evil, yeah. But it just doesn't. I mean, we all didn't just care for what reason, and now it's the time that we do, and and what we do in UX practice, we were in the same situation. What to do? Yeah, people are asking, where can I start? And what we tried to do, we took our UX methods and extended them with a layer of sustainability. Like we have, for instance, we have developed an impact effort map, yeah, like an impact map on where we can in the design phase or in the analytics phase, where you can identify which stakeholders are, when we're working with stakeholders and personas per se, yeah, and user groups. And so we extended that to environmental and social dimensions. So your classic example is the user journey map, which is just extended for topics of sustainability. We can identify, that's what I said before, now we can identify how much energy or whatever, or harm is done at a specific touch point in the journey. Yeah, but this had not been regarded and not been asked for, yeah, actually. But the industry is not asking it. Yeah, but we have some projects, or I work in projects that are around sustainable software, yeah, and also sustainability by software, so both, yeah. And I'm looking for those projects, and to do what I can to integrate and to the practices and to push those topics, yeah. And regarding business cases, I would say, you know, I work a lot in project sector, yeah, for public software for public. And they have also a business case, but it's not a business case of a normal company. Yeah, they have also, you know, they have to organize money from the taxpayers or from whoever, and for which source, and also they have to, you know, they have to be take care of the money, but they don't measure the return on investment by user. They have a different KPIs, yeah, and it's more the society is paying for things we develop. And for me, this could be also a good part in starting point, yeah, to have role models, to have best practices in sustainable software or sustainability through software, and to push that more.
Thank you so much. Ian already opened the door to finding the right people to talk to, maybe also finding the right stakeholders to consider. That's a topic I would like to go into next, but I'd just like to remind the listeners, please add your comments or questions if you have any. I think after the next question, which is about stakeholders, I would like to answer some of your questions and see which directions you wanted to take this discussion. If you have any question about having a sustainable mindset, developing a sustainable mindset, taking the first step or taking the next step, please post your question and we'll get to that in just a bit. But as I said, now I want to also not just consider how does our profession, how does our way of working change, but also that the sustainable mindset is affecting our human-centered approach towards who to include, who to consider. So what does that mean for the stakeholders we consider? And Ian, would you like to go first?
Certainly, yeah. Stakeholders, of course, is a word that means different things to different people. We might talk about it as the people that we have to interview and elicit requirements from, or it might be the people who are going to be affected by our system, or it might be the ecosystems that are going to be affected. A concept that I think I find quite useful in teaching is something that's often used in the ICT for sustainability academic area. 3 orders of impact. We need to think about the impacts at life cycle level. So that's the IT itself, from mining, making, using, and that's where our electricity consumption comes in, through end of life and waste. So we need to be responsible about our impacts there. But it is the enabling, the applications that we build that run on that IT, and who do those applications affect. And then structural, if an application becomes very widely used, how does it change the way in which we work in society? So for example, because of IT applications, the gig economy has become very widely accepted as a way of doing business. And yet, if it's not done well, it can lead to workers losing rights, losing benefits such as holiday pay, sick pay, etc. So that helps us think about the impacts that we have. We might also use other structures. So I've talked about the Sustainable Development Goals. If you're working in a business context, then check if your business is doing sustainability reporting. They might use GRI, the Global Reporting Initiative. They might use ISSB, the International Sustainability Standards Board, and find the sustainability report. What are the areas that your business or your client have said they have a material impact on? That might help you to identify those stakeholders who might otherwise get missed. The SDGs are designed for governments, and my work with businesses on them in my PhD research show that it is quite difficult to work with them as business detail level. But on the other hand, one of my case studies, working through the SDGs at target level, we were able to identify requirements that covered 10 of the SDGs compared to the client's business as usual process, which only identified requirements covering 4 of the SDGs. So structures and frameworks like the SDGs, GRI, can help you to anticipate who are the stakeholders who will be affected and go and talk to the people that you might not otherwise have thought of. And those, if we want to go further out into future best practice, we might talk about the stakeholders who are not human. We sometimes call them more than human. So, for example, there are some jurisdictions where rivers are getting legal status. How embarrassing would it be to be involved in developing the requirements for a system where you then get sued by a river for the damage that your system is doing. So where else? Who else are the stakeholders we might miss? Future people. I live in England. Just across the bridge in Wales, they have the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act. There is a Future Generations Commissioner whose responsibility it is to speak on behalf of future generations when it comes to government decisions. So that's perhaps a lot of learning for a requirements engineer, but this should be our ambition, to think about and be responsible about the requirements that we elicit.
I'm sure that the requirements engineers who, for example, work with the onion model and say, okay, who's in the direct vicinity of a system in the wider environment, they might even have overlooked these kinds of stakeholders. And I'm not sure if some of them will be a little bit pessimistic about all of a sudden considering a river stakeholder. But I know that there's also quite a lot of research, among others, by my fellow Dutchman, Dirk van den Linden, on animal requirements, on considering what impact does a system have on the animal world, or how can we design software and solutions actually for animals. And I remember that was also a little bit laughed at, joked at when he first introduced that topic, but I think we've come a long way ever since. Do you see that there's also this kind of development happening for things like rivers?
Oh, certainly. As I said, there are jurisdictions where rivers are getting legal status. What is difficult is how does the river talk? Who represents it? Whether you have some form of river guardians or commissioners who represent the river and are able to take legal standing in a court. And if there's anything that drives the importance of requirements, it's the chance that you might get sued for doing legal damage. So what sort of business case do you need in terms of fines and doing damage to a body that has legal personhood?
Mm-hmm. Right. By the way, for the listeners, if some of those things that Ian has mentioned earlier, for example, the 5 dimensions of sustainability, or if you're unfamiliar with this life cycle enabling structural format that was introduced by Professor Hilty, you can always contact us to get the right references, or you can try Googling. As you see, there are also some concepts out there that can help us think and help us structure our thoughts. And I think that's also an important message that you are giving, Ian.
Yes. And of course, you hopefully are working within businesses where there are sustainability professionals whose views you can get, whose support you can get. So what is the role of a professional requirements engineer? To be sufficiently aware of sustainability, to be able to anticipate some of the impact areas, then go find the people from whom you elicit the requirements.
Mm-hmm. Stan, would you like to comment on that too? What is your view? And maybe you can talk a little bit in name of IREB about how do we view stakeholders in light of sustainability?
Yeah, I mean, in general, what we see at IREB is that for sure not only human beings are stakeholders. So if you model the context of your system environment, and if you look into your application domains, means who are direct users, who are indirect users, you also come to this point where you say, okay, what are, let's say, existing systems that need to be considered on the one hand side? What are new systems that might be considered? What kind of regulations, legislations, ethical principles, whatever do I have? And here, I think what's not super well done today is that this kind of SDGs, for instance, or other, let's say, sustainability regulations or papers and whatever are, let's say, really considered. Because as of now, I mean, we're talking on the one hand side, we are talking about requirements engineering, and we see that even in, let's say, quite stable businesses, also you often need to discuss about why you're doing requirements engineering. And this will also, let's say, take some time. This will create some effort. And now we will come on top with sustainability, what's super important. But for sure, here we create the same discussion and the same points. And in my perception, we need to extend, let's say, our say way of concept modeling or context modeling to see what kind of sustainability stakeholders are out there. So this could be these SDGs, this could be regulations, this could be, if you think about, let's say, rivers or water that's used for cooling, or power that's used for data centers and so on. We also for sure need to find the right people who could answer our questions, who will, let's say, who are able to define their requirements. And I think this is getting more and more important. And what we will then, I think, also see is that if we are, let's say, perfectly aligned in one dimension of sustainability, then maybe we're getting into some conflicts with other dimensions of sustainability. So if we are, let's say, super accessible, everything is super user-friendly, and everything is, let's say, responding in zero time and so on, then on the other hand side, we will for sure impact on the environmental dimension, probably, because we need to have more, let's say, data that's stored. We need to have more whatever performance on the system and so on. And here, I think we also, as for all of our requirements, when we're talking with different business units, we need to get some kind of let's say, internal voice that's also introducing ourselves. If there are conflicts, if we see that there are conflicts and they are coming up, then we need to address them and we need to discuss them. There is no black and white. There's no way a kind of black and white. We always are working in this kind of gray zone, and we need to find, in my point of view, a kind of good compromise always. That we are dealing with when developing software mostly.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And Ingo, from a rather UX perspective, what is your thought on sustainability and the role of stakeholders?
Yeah, UX has to do a lot of with psychology, and we observe that we tend to look at the people near us, and the farther you're away from the user, then you are unseen, and it's hard to detect. And if we in a normal classic life, and if you think about, we now think about rivers or even not born people as stakeholders for a software that we build today. So that's really a mind shift, if you want. So if it's hard, I mean, I see in projects it's hard enough to develop the software for the personas I know, and then for perhaps and persuade the stakeholders to pay for it, and then I have to think about now also on the harm I do in the river that I don't even know where it is. So it's a much, but I think it's necessary. And funny enough, you said the persona thing. Last year, Stan, you remember perhaps on the Mention Computer conference, we did this workshop with this non-human persona template. We tried it out, and it was really interesting to observe what happened, as it was really hard for the people to make this practice on, like, let's say, I think it was about a tree, and it was for trees that are cut for paper, building a badge. And it was really hard to see how the professionals were struggling to go there. But I think it's a good example of it's necessary to think about that. But then the methods are there, but we just have to learn it. And there's in UX, there's a movement already since some years. I mean, we're talking about human-centered design practices, in UX, but there's a movement which, and also the Sustainable UX Network is talking about that, shifting that to an environmental centered approach, or so there are different words for that. You can replace environment with other words like planet-centric or whatever, but the meaning is the same, to have the full landscape of stakeholders in mind. And depending on your project, obviously, you can look very far and you can look very deep. But as I said before, someone has to pay the price for it, for our comfort, and it feels kind of unfair, and and I think perhaps we are discussing it in a moment, but I think without limitation, we are living in a branch without limitations. Yeah, we can just scale. Yeah, or we think we can scale. Yeah, nobody is paying for that, and it's just and not the environment. We just scale or scale down or scale up. And I've never seen a project which scale down. They all scale up, and we don't think about limits. Yeah, but I think perhaps it's a time to think about limitations. Yeah, even if it's perhaps the government is limitation the wild idea, limitation the energy consumption for whole internet in 1 year, whatever. Yeah, I don't know, but to think about how much energy can I use for my application, which is available for me and not for me reserved. Yeah, not for endlessly ever. It's perhaps it's a quite radical, but I don't know. Perhaps it should for a certain time to turn around the wheel. I don't know.
That's an interesting thing that maybe we can pick up on in a second. I would like to first ask Stan if we have any viewer questions.
There are questions from Sama Chopra, but I'm not 100% sure how to which topics this was related. So there was one question, can you explain on domain requirements and system requirements with an example in the IT world? Was just thinking, how is this really related to the, let's say, sustainability aspects? For sure, let's say when we are looking to the application domain, doesn't matter if this is whatever, banking or aerospace or whatever, there are for sure this kind of domain requirements, and probably based on this domain, you also have requirements on sustainability. This could be whatever, accessibility, this could be energy consumption, this could be whatever. And what I would say is this should be considered for sure. Let's say this kind of domain requirements, what are mostly given by whatever regulations, laws, and so on. And then they need to be broken down somehow in a kind of system requirements. Means what does this kind of energy consumption in general mean for this functionality that I'm documenting? What does this mean in this area of, for instance, performance of the system, availability of the system? What for me also could get into this direction is quite often when we are talking about quality requirements, could be performance, could be also availability or whatever. Most often we are creating the amount of what is the maximum that I could get out of the system. But we also should consider kind of minimum and maximum of this requirements. This means what is the minimum I would expect and what is the maximum I would expect? Because there is this completely nonsense if we say every let's say reaction or every request that I set up will have to respond in whatever real time. It's not necessary because maybe there are also other systems involved, like a payment provider, like whatever checkout system that is not even capable of creating these responses. And here, I think this is also for me a quite good, let's say, trigger when documenting this kind of system requirements in this area of quality requirements. Always think about minimum and maximum of these requirements. Maybe Ian or Ingo, you have something.
Yeah, I agree absolutely, Stan. And funny enough, I just did a presentation I will have in the end of the week where exactly, forcing that, to have in UX as a constraint, let's say in digital design, the requirements, the maximum speed of the system reacting, and that's really, I think that's missing. Really figures, just numbers. How much Google is doing that with the 2 seconds they are measuring for the largest contentful paint, the 2 seconds as a minimum to build up in to be good, and that's fine. Yeah, I mean, it's a constraint, it's a number, and if you know it, and in digital design we say if you know the constraint, you can respond to it, but at the moment it's not known and it's not defined. But I think this is really the moment where it's necessary to have that in clear numbers, yeah, and more perhaps in maximum numbers or in bandwidth, yeah, or could also be. But it's really interesting that you said.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I see that Samar Chopra also asked 2 more questions about the Certified Professional for Requirements Engineering curriculum. I would suggest we take that to an offline discussion. Maybe we can answer that to him personally, because I think those are a little bit too specific about our trainings. I do see a new question coming in.
Yeah, there is another one.
Would you like to read that one, or shall I?
Yeah, however you like.
I can go for it. Given the tension between short-term business goals and long-term sustainability, how can requirements engineering practitioners help stakeholders make informed trade-off decisions? A very interesting question. Who wants to take this one?
Well, I'd say that this is an under-researched area. What happens to sustainability requirements in that trade space, the trade-off process? In my research, I identified plenty of sustainability requirements. I have not tested that after it went through trade space. So how many of them actually were adopted into the end system? So thank you for asking this question. It is absolutely key. And part of that is what I talked about earlier about thinking expansively about the potential business benefits of a sustainability requirement, not just seeing it as a negative, you must not do this, but also expressing very positively how it can bring benefit. We've talked about some of those areas, and one to take into consideration is also recruitment. Students these days, young people looking for their early jobs, are very sustainability oriented. A benefit to you and your client is to show how sustainability proactive you are to improve the chances of recruiting new staff and retaining the ones you have already.
And surely here, this multifaceted thinking along the 5 dimensions of sustainability, and not thinking just about, okay, here's a long-term environmental goal, but also what is the economic benefits? Maybe in the short term as well, but definitely also in the long term, in terms of how is our organization being perceived by others, and then also the social dimension that is helping to identify, okay, where is my organization standing in the world? What benefits could there be? And maybe those could also tilt this trade-off decision a little bit to the advantage of sustainability, because you consider those other factors.
Yeah, I might also include a worst case example, which is Dieselgate, the example of software written to do bad, which resulted in large fines and software engineers going to jail. So there are some downside impacts that ought to be part of your business case as well.
True.
Absolutely.
There's maybe one thing that's coming up into my head. I think this could also be, let's say, short-term business goal. So most often, as all of us know, management and business people are, let's say, driving us to build things as fast as possible, and that the let's say solutions are going live, whatever next day best. This quite often leads, in my experience, to a kind of technical debt or workarounds and all this stuff. And quite often, this is not really measured in terms of what does this mean for sustainability. What is the sustainability aspect? For sure, this is on the one hand side measured on, let's say, the monetary aspect. How much does it cost to remove the workaround or to remove these technical debts? And technical debts are most often not removed anyway. And I think this is also something that should be more transparent and also in the area of sustainability. Not sure, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I just want to because I have an idea. Just yesterday, I read that the EU. I mean, what I want to say is perhaps this conflict between short-term business goals and long-term sustainability goals will someday not disappear, but will be mitigated by, let's say, EU. They have, now they force manufacturers to have 5-year software updates possible after the end of a digital product. So the race to the newest is going to be a bit slowed down by regulation, and that's a big part. I think regulation can play a big role in mitigating those conflicts. Yeah. So they really think automatically long term and not in short terms. And if you think long term, then you think what you said at the end, at the beginning, strategic. Then it's a strategic decision of the company. How fast do you want to release software, and how long is it lasting? And if you're forced to have it, then you probably will do it.
Thank you. So I see we're running into the last few minutes of our round here. I see that there's another question by Cenk, and I promise we'll do another roundtable, which is going to be completely about measuring requirements and about measuring sustainability in requirements engineering. So you've asked about, how can we use KPIs to measure it? That will definitely be a topic, and I hope to see you in that round as well. I would like to go to a concluding round where I ask each of the participants, just how can we get started? What is the first step that I can take, or a next step I can take to become a driver of change, to have a sustainable mindset myself, and especially to apply it in my own work context? Stan, would you like to go first?
Maybe first thing when talking about digital solutions, I think today we have talked a lot about how, let's say, evil digital solutions could be in the sustainability aspect. On the other hand side, I think digital solutions could really also be used to reduce whatever carbon footprints of companies when looking to traveling. They could be used for, let's say, to build really solutions that are for sustainability and so on. But anyhow, it doesn't matter what kind of solution or digital product we are building. For me, what's most important is please just think about sustainability when starting your requirements engineering work. Think about if a certain functionality is really needed. Think about if the data that needs to be collected, transferred, stored is needed. How long data should be stored and all this stuff. Because this will, one by one, just consume power, consume also operation stuff and all this, all things. This is for me, be aware, talk about the things, and be aware about the impact that you are creating when, let's say, just building whatever functionality, collecting whatever data, and so on.
Okay, final remarks by Ingo.
Yeah, I would think the mind shift is key. Yeah, without no matter what philosophy you take, but it's more about caring for other things. Yeah, not for yourself, but for the greater good. So let's keep it like this. Start small. Start now. Start today. Yeah, or even if not today, then tomorrow, and use the tools you have. Extend them, and I like the phrase from Peter Drucker, the management teacher, not doing the things right, but doing the right things. Yeah, and that's it. So you have a choice and what to do and what to leave.
Thank you so much. And Ian, the final word about sustainable mindset is yours.
Thank you. Well, it's absolutely right that we should celebrate tech for good, the examples of where we can use technology and IT to improve sustainability. And we like talking about that as an industry. What we also perhaps ought to talk more about is tech for bad. In what ways are software and requirements doing damage to the environment? So, for example, we should not explore and open any new oil and gas fields. Any software that is helping to do that is effectively tech for bad. It's storing up sustainability damage for the future. So perhaps the key question is, what systems would you not work on? For what systems would you not elicit requirements? I teach students going into the workforce. We can't wait for them to become managers and make different decisions. We need current professionals to be making good decisions for future generations.
Thank you so much. And thank you to all panelists for sharing your thoughts, spending your time with us, and giving us some real food for thought. Thank you also for the participants for listening in, for asking very insightful questions. You've seen that it sparked more discussion with us, and I think this has been a great discussion. If you have any other questions about sustainability, about how you can be supported, you can always contact us. You can email sustainability@ireb.org. You can contact us through our LinkedIn channels. In addition to the roundtables, we have several other formats that we also offer. So we are there for the community. We want to be there for the community. This is also why we do this. And we hope you have some inspiration, hopefully for over dinner if you're in the European time zone. Thank you so much again for tuning in. Thank you to Ingo. Thank you to Ian. Thank you to Stan. And we hope to see you next time.
Thanks, Eddie. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.